70% of British households buy sausages every single week. The banger is as British as it gets breakfast, bangers and mash, the barbecue, the full English. We grew up with them, we trust them. And most of us have absolutely no idea what is actually inside them. Here's what the label doesn't tell you. By law, a product can call itself a pork sausage with just 42% pork. The rest? Water, rusk, soya protein, phosphate stabilisers, artificial colouring made from crushed beetles, and a preservative linked to asthma attacks in sensitive individuals. Today, we are auditing 10 of the most widely bought sausage brands in the UK, ranking them from worst to best based on meat content, additives, salt levels, sourcing, and ingredient transparency. Some of the results are going to surprise you. Some are going to make you put the pack back on the shelf. Let's flip some labels. Number 10, Richmond thick pork sausages. Pork, 42% in additives, 5 in salt, high in sourcing. UK&U Richmond calls itself the nation's favourite sausage. 14 million packs sold every year. The branding says comfort, the nostalgia says trust. And the label says something very different. Flip the pack. Pork, 42%. That is not a typo. 42% pork, the absolute legal minimum required to call a product a pork sausage under UK law. The remaining 58% of what you are eating is water, wheat rusk, soya protein concentrate, pork fat, stabilisers, preservatives, and here is the one that stops people in their tracks: carmine. E120, a red colouring derived from crushed cochineal beetles, added because at 42% pork, the natural colour of the product isn't pink enough to look like a sausage. Richmond also contains sodium metabisulfite, a sulphite preservative that the NHS lists as a known trigger for breathing difficulties and asthma attacks in sensitive individuals. And sodium triphosphate and sodium polyphosphate phosphate additives linked to impaired kidney function with excessive consumption added to retain water in the product. The meat that is in there? Not exclusively British. Richmond's label states, UK and U, a phrase that tells you nothing about the origin, welfare standards, or conditions under which the pork was produced. Richmond is made by Kerry Foods, a multinational ingredient and food manufacturer, not a butcher. The nation's favourite is the legal minimum, dressed up in nostalgia and sold at a premium over better products. Red flags, 42% pork. E120 beetle colouring. Sulphite preservative. U-sourced meat. Soya filler. Number 9, Wall's thick pork sausages. Pork, 61% additives, 5 in salt, highest tested in sourcing. UK&U Wall's has been trading on its heritage since Thomas Wall opened a market stall in 1786. Royal Households. Master Butchery, a brand built over 2 centuries on the promise of quality. Also made by Kerry Foods. Same parent company as Richmond, same Egham, Surrey address on the label. Wall's does better on meat content 61% pork versus Richmond's 42%. But it still contains cochineal colouring E120, same crushed beetle dye, sodium metabisulfite sulphite preservative, diphosphate stabilisers, and pork from Great Britain and the EU. And here is the number that makes Wall's the highest risk entry on this list, despite its higher meat content. Salt. An independent consumer analysis found that a standard portion of Wall's sausages contains 35% of an adult's entire recommended daily salt intake, in a single serving. That is the highest salt load of any brand on this list. For context, the NAGS recommends adults consume no more than 6 grams of salt per day. Wall's thick sausages will take you more than a third of the way there before you've added anything else to your plate. High salt intake is directly linked to raised blood pressure, increased risk of stroke, and cardiovascular disease. A heritage brand with a royal household claim, and a salt level that would concern your GP. Red flags: U-sourced meat. E1120 colouring. Highest salt content tested. Sulphites, phosphate water retention additives. Number 8, Iceland pork and beef sausages. Pork beef mix in additives, foreign salt, high in sourcing, unspecified. Iceland's sausage range sits in budget territory, sold in large multi-packs at low unit prices, targeted squarely at families looking to stretch a food budget. Nothing wrong with that. The problem is what you're actually getting. The first flag, mixed species. Pork and beef in the same sausage. This is not a problem in itself, but it is a signal. Premium sausage producers do not mix species. It's done to reduce cost and increase the weight of the product cheaply. When a manufacturer uses beef in a pork sausage, it is almost always to cut the cost of the more expensive pork. The second flag, sourcing transparency. Iceland provides minimal detail on the origin of its meat. Produced in the UK tells you where the product was made, not where the animal was raised, under what welfare standards, or what it was fed. The third flag, additives. Phosphate stabilisers to retain water. Sulphite preservatives. Colouring to maintain the appearance of meat content the product doesn't have. All standard. All worth knowing about. Iceland's sausages are not the worst product on this list by meat content. But the mixed species, the opacity on sourcing, and the additive profile make them a product to approach with your eyes open. Red flags. Mixed species, poor sourcing transparency. Water retention phosphates. Colouring additives. Number 7 Tesco Everyday Value Pork Sausages. Pork, my 47% N additives. Foreign salt, medium high-end sourcing. UK Tesco's budget tier sausage sits just above the legal minimum around 47% pork and uses the standard economy sausage playbook, rusk to bulk, soya protein to inflate the nitrogen content, phosphates to hold water, and stabilisers to bind it all together. What Tesco Everyday Value does do right, the meat is sourced from the UK. That matters. British pork is produced under higher welfare standards than much of the EU equivalent, and it tells you the traceability chain is shorter and more accountable. That alone puts it above Richmond and Walls on one measure. But 47% pork means you are still paying for a product where more than half of what you're eating is not meat. The rusk absorbs the water, the soya adds bulk, and the phosphates make it hold together in a way that pure pork never would. These are engineering solutions to the problem of not putting enough meat in the product. At this price point, Tesco's own data shows it is the country's most purchased economy sausage, which means more of these go on more British breakfast plates than any other brand in this category. Worth knowing what's on them. Red flags, low meat content, feel 47%. Soya filler. Phosphate water retention additives. Rusk bulking agent. Number 6 Asda Smart Price Pork Sausages. Pork, my 47% additives, foreign salt, medium high-end sourcing. UK Asda's economy sausage is structurally near identical to Tesco's budget offering. Similar meat content. Similar additive profile, similar rusk and soya construction. British pork sourcing. What separates Asda Smart Price at number 6 versus Tesco Everyday Value at number 7 is marginal. The Asda product has a slightly higher phosphate load in its published ingredient list, indicating more aggressive water retention in the product. More water per sausage. Less value per gram of protein. These are the products that end up on the grill at the school summer fair, in the canteen tray, on the plate of anyone in Britain who is trying to eat on the tightest possible budget. They are legal, they are safe, they are not particularly honest about what they are. Red flags, 47% pork. Highest phosphate load in the budget tier. Soya filler. Water retention additives. Verdict board part 1. Let's see where we are. 6 brands down. Here's the board. Richmond, 42% pork. Beetle colouring. Ewe meat. The nation's favourite is the nation's most misleading label. Avoid. Walls. More pork than Richmond, but the highest salt load on this entire list. A third of your daily salt allowance in a single portion. Heritage branding. Modern shortcuts. Avoid. Iceland. Mixed species. No sourcing transparency. Additives across the board. When a brand won't tell you where the meat came from, there's usually a reason. Avoid. Tesco Everyday Value. almost half the product is not meat. Cheap, legal, and honest about being budget, but not honest about what budget actually means on the label. Avoid Asda Smart Price. Same story as Tesco. The highest phosphate load in the budget tier, meaning more water per sausage, less protein per penny. Avoid 5 brands. All avoid. One marginal pass in the bottom 6, and it didn't make the cut either. The top 4 are coming, and at least one of them is going to surprise you. 6 brands, all failing on at least 2 of the 4 measures. Now the top 4, and this is where it changes. Number 5, Sainsbury's Taste the Difference Outdoor Bread. Pork, 85% net additives, 2N salt, medium end sourcing. British outdoor bread, Sainsbury's premium tier, is where the gap becomes visible. 85% pork, more than double the Richmond minimum. Outdoor bred British pork, which means the pigs were born outside and raised to higher welfare standards than standard indoor reared animals. The ingredient list shortens significantly at this tier. No artificial colouring, no soya filler, no phosphate water retention. The additives present are a preservative and an antioxidant. 2 additives versus 5 in the worst entries. The salt is medium, not the lowest on this list, but not the Wall's extreme. A reasonable fry-up sausage that actually contains the thing it claims to be made of. The limitation: Sainsbury's premium sausages are priced accordingly. They are not the best value premium option on this list that comes later. But as a product, they are honest about what they are, and what they are is substantially better than the bottom 6. Green flags: 85% British outdoor bred pork. No artificial colouring, no soya filler. Short ingredient list. Number 4, Heck 97% pork sausages. Pork, 97% additives, 2N salt, low medium end sourcing. British pork shoulder Heck was founded in 2012 by Andrew and Debbie Keeble, a farming family from North Yorkshire who had been raising pigs for 30 years. The 97% sausage is exactly what it says. British pork shoulder seasoned with salt, spices, and rice flour. That is essentially the entire ingredient list. No rusk, no soya protein, no phosphate stabilisers, no artificial colouring. Gluten-free, dairy-free. The meat content is 97%, the highest of any mass-market sausage on this list, and the protein per serving reflects that: 24 grams of protein per 2 sausages versus 8-10 in the budget tier brands. When Heck appeared on a BBC Food Factory documentary, cameras showed what goes into the sausage: large cuts of British pork shoulder, minced and seasoned. No mechanically recovered meat, no lips, no additives to hide behind. The calorie count is 273 per 2 sausages, higher than you might expect, but that is the calorie density of actual meat, not the diluted water and rusk product of the bottom of the list. Heck is widely available in major supermarkets at around 3.50 per pack. Per gram of actual pork, it is significantly better value than Richmond. Green flags: 97% British pork shoulder, no rusk, no soya, no artificial colour. Gluten and dairy free. Number 3, M&S Classic pork sausages. Pork, 80+ additives, 2N salt, low medium sourcing. British outdoor bred M&S does not publish a specific pork percentage for its standard classic range on the front of pack, but the ingredient list tells the story. Pork is the first and dominant ingredient, with no soya protein, no artificial colouring, no phosphate stabilisers in the water retention class. The sourcing is British outdoor bred, the same welfare tier as Sainsbury's Taste the Difference, but M&S applies this standard across its entire sausage range, not just the premium tier. There is no M&S budget sausage that cuts corners on sourcing. What M&S does particularly well is salt management. Its classic pork sausages have consistently appeared in consumer analyses with among the lowest salt content of any mainstream sausage, 15% of an adult's daily recommended salt intake per portion, compared to Wall's 35%. More than half the salt load in a sausage with more meat. The Which? Supermarket Food Quality Survey has rated M&S top for in-store food quality 4 years consecutively. The sausages are a direct expression of that standard. Green flags, British outdoor-bred pork. No artificial colouring, no soya. Lowest salt content of the mainstream brands. Consistently top-rated. Number 2, Aldi specially selected outdoor-bred pork sausages. Pork, 97% additives, 2 in salt, low-medium sourcing, British outdoor. This is the entry that will surprise people. The Which? Investigation into 41 UK sausage brands found that Aldi's specially selected range contained 97% pork, matching the Heck premium product at a price per kilogram of 4.73. For comparison, premium products with lower meat content were selling at 8.75 per kilogram. 97% pork. British outdoor bred. No artificial additives beyond the standard preservative and antioxidant. And nearly half the price of comparable premium products. Aldi does not brand this product aggressively. There is no heritage story, no celebrity endorsement, no artisan backstory. Just a sausage with 97% British pork in it, sold at a price that reflects what a sausage should actually cost when you're not paying for marketing. In blind taste tests, Aldi's premium sausages have consistently outperformed branded rivals at significantly higher price points. The 2025 Grocer of the Year award went to Lidl, Aldi's nearest rival, but in this category specifically, Aldi's specially selected stands on its own. This is the best value sausage on this list. Green flags, 97% British outdoor bred pork. Best value per gram on the list. No artificial additives. No soya or rusk filler. Independent taste test winner. Number 1, Waitrose No.1 free-range pork sausages. Pork, 98% additives, 2 in salt, low in sourcing, British free-range, pedigree Hampshire Boar's verdict board part 2. And the difference between this and everything else on this list comes down to one word: free range. Every other sausage on this list, including the premium outdoor bred products, comes from pigs that were born outdoors but raised indoors after weaning. Free range means the pigs spent their entire lives outdoors with permanent access to pasture. Waitrose No.1 is the only mainstream free-range pork sausage available in a British supermarket. The animals are sired by pedigree Hampshire Boars, a heritage breed known for exceptional meat quality from farms that Waitrose knows by name. The pork content is 98%. The ingredient list is pork, sea salt, rice flour, maize flour, black pepper, stabiliser, white pepper, preservative, onion, mace, antioxidant, maize starch, sage, ginger, filled into natural hog casings. 14 ingredients, most of which are herbs and spices, no artificial colouring, no soya, no rusk, no E120, no sulphites in the water retention class. The salt content is the lowest of any product on this list. The protein content per sausage is the highest. The welfare standard is the highest available in British mainstream retail. You will pay more. At the time of testing, one range was priced at around £4.50 for 4 sausages. That is a premium. But what you are paying for is documented, audited, and genuinely better not just as a product, but as a food system. If you eat 1 pack of sausages a week, the difference in cost between Richmond and Waitrose No.1 is approximately £2.50. The difference in what you are eating is 42% pork versus 98% pork. Crushed-beetle colouring and sulphite preservatives versus sea salt and black pepper. You sourced mystery meat versus named British free-range farms. That is what £2.50 buys you. The choice is yours. Green flags, 98% free-range British pork, only free-range mainstream sausage in the UK. Natural hog casings. No artificial colouring, no soya or rusk. Lowest salt. Highest protein. Named farm sourcing. Verdict board part 2, here's the full board. Sainsbury's taste the difference. 85% outdoor bred British pork. Clean ingredients, no artificial colouring. A genuinely good sausage, but at a premium price, it's outperformed by cheaper products further up this list. Rethink before you pay the premium. Heck, 97%. 97% British pork shoulder. No rusk, no soya, no artificial additives. Made by a farming family who still know what goes in the product. If you want a clean label sausage at a fair price, this is your buy. Buy M&S Classic. Outdoor bred British pork across the entire range, not just the premium tier. The lowest salt content of any mainstream brand on this list. 4 consecutive years as which top-rated supermarket for food quality. That reputation starts here. Buy Aldi Specially Selected. 97% outdoor bred British pork. Best value per gram of any product on this list. Outperforms branded rivals at twice the price in blind taste tests. No marketing budget, just the product. Buy, and the clear winner, Waitrose No.1 free range. 98% pork. The only free-range sausage in British mainstream retail. Named farms. Pedigree Hampshire boars. Natural hog casings. The cleanest label, the highest welfare standard, the lowest salt. This is what a British sausage is supposed to be. Best buy. Before you put any pack in your basket, run through these 5 checks. Check one meat percentage below 60%, drop it. You are buying more filler than meat. 60-80% acceptable, but check the rest. Above 80%, you're in the right territory. Check 2 colouring E120, carmine, cochineal on the label, drop it. Artificial colouring is there to disguise low meat content. No colouring listed, the meat content is high enough to look like meat on its own. Check 3 fillers soya protein concentrate listed, cheap plant protein used to inflate the apparent protein content without adding meat. Rusk as a primary ingredient, cereal filler. Cheap bulk, not what you came for. Neither present, you're buying sausage, not sausage-adjacent filler. Check 4 sourcing UK and EU or no origin listed, you don't know where the meat came from or under what welfare standards. British pork, better. Standard UK welfare applies. British outdoor bred or British free range, the highest available welfare standards in UK mainstream retail. Check 5 salt more than 1.5 g salt per 100 g. High. Check your portion. 1.5 g per 100 g moderate. Fine for most people. Under 1.0 g per 100 g low. The best products on this list sit here. The rule, if it fails checks 1 and 2, put it back regardless of price. A sausage with artificial colouring and 42% meat is not a value product. It is an expensive way to eat filler. Close the British sausage has been on our plates for centuries. It fed the working class, it anchored the full English, it became one of the most recognisable symbols of British food culture. And somewhere along the way, the biggest brands in the category decided that 42% pork was enough. That crushed beetle colouring would make up the difference. That soya protein would fool the nutrition label. 3 of the 10 brands on this list are genuinely worth your money. 7 of them are worth a harder look next time you're at the chiller. The label doesn't lie, but it also doesn't volunteer what it doesn't have to tell you. Now you know what to ask. Subscribe, share this with someone who had Richmond for breakfast this morning. And check back for the next audit.